SWX Tonight starts right now.
Well, this was the scene today in San Diego where the Mariners and Padres were scheduled to play tonight at Petco Park. But just hours before first pitch, the Mariners decided they would not play in the game, joining a growing movement of sports figures sitting out games to speak out for issues they feel need to be recognized. And that was just the tip of the iceberg in an unprecedented day in sports that saw games in nearly every sport, including a trio of postseason games in the NBA bubble, take a back seat after an incident that saw another black man shot by a police officer earlier this week in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Everybody has a voice now. Everybody can speak out, and the guys can have an effect on the people that follow them and that watch them, and everybody's got, on social media, every one of our guys has a big following to some extent.
Pete just talked to us a little bit about the meetings you guys have had regarding the police killing in Wisconsin, and I just wanted to get your take on what kind of expression you guys want to make, if that included the anthem today, and what else might be in store.
It's tough. It's a tough situation to speak on, but the main thing is just keeping awareness to it.
This SWX production is brought to you by AmeriCool Heating and Air and Jeremy Brock, your local mortgage expert.
I feel like if you have a platform big enough to try to encourage others, just stay safe and just be healthy and keep calm, I feel like you should do it, just because if there's some people that look up to you, if you may not know it or not, and they'll listen to you just because they've been looking up to you. And so I feel like if you have the platform, you should use it.
I mean, they're well known. They got a platform that they can use to make a big difference, and they can change a lot of stuff.
For me, as a young black kid, it's pretty cool seeing them using their voice, and people who people listen to them because they're on national TV and stuff. It's pretty cool seeing them do all of that, for sure.
It makes me feel really good about myself and my race and all that. It just makes me feel like I can speak about things and without being racially slurred or anything like that.
For student athletes, 2020 will be remembered as a year they didn't have sports, but did learn how to use their voice.
You saw it from the very beginning with the BLM movements, and now it's the school movements, and you have Trump protests happening. I mean, it's so many different things happening that people have an opportunity to step up and speak up with. And I feel for me, it was a lot of, to myself, time, honestly, and getting to realize what who I am and what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go with myself. And I feel as soon as I kind of put that in stone, and it was ready to take time and take action and stuff. And as soon as I saw an opportunity to jump on something and speak up for something and lead something, I took it.
One of the issues was racial injustice. In the Tri-Cities, we only have to take a look just decades into our past to see a history marked by racism. Until the late 60s, Kennewick was a sundown town, meaning that people of color were not permitted into the city after sunset, instead having to reside in East Pasco. That was until John Slaughter and wife Mary were rented a house in Kennewick despite the mandate and despite hate that might ensue.
It was a teacher at Kennewick, and he was mad at the system, and he was going to rent his house to a black couple.
Oh, that's right.
When we took our kids to school, the first word came out of a little boy's mouth, "Here come the N-word." And I said, "Yo," John said, "Don't you dare." Because I was going to say something, and I was glad he stopped me, because that was a child. And that child got that from his parents.
I read about that when I was in school, so I knew about it back in the 70s. It's, it was shocking then, and it's still kind of shocking now whenever I think about it. But yeah, it was it was not a good time back then. You know, they thought a lot differently back then too. During the time when I was in high school, up and through the 90s, you know, 2000s, it didn't seem like we had to worry about that kind of stuff. You could live where you wanted to. You could go anywhere you wanted to. You know, it's really kind of refreshing to see, you know, in these last, you know, 6 months how things have really exploded for the better. I think, you know, it's not the violence, obviously, but the fact that, you know, people are made more aware that, you know, hey, it's not all equal.
Everyone was protesting, white, black, it did not matter. Everyone was, and everyone came together as a community, at least here, and everyone was happy, and everyone like just came together and loved on each other, and that was just like a good time and moment. Everyone needed it.
When I learned about that, I was shook because I was like, that was literally like 40, 50 years ago. You know, like my mom and dad are that age, and they're, you know, like, they're still young, you know? So like, that's insane to like be like, had we come here, you know, like, or my parents before they gave birth to me or something like that, you know, like they would have experienced that.
When I wanted to cover the subject of racial injustice, I'll admit I was nervous about asking Black residents if people in the Tri-Cities were racist. To my pleasant surprise, I heard of a community they are proud to be a part of.
Every neighborhood we've ever lived in, our neighbors are 10 out of 10, you know, sweetest people. Like, you know, will like bring us things. Like our neighbors here, for example, their gardens, they'll just pick little fruits and you know, like vegetables and just drop them off. Or like when we first moved up here, our next door neighbors like baked cookies and like cakes and stuff like that, dropped by introducing themselves. And like other places, you know, they're like, you just don't do that here. And they look out for each other, you know. And that was like, thank goodness I grew up in that, because if I ever have a family, I'd want them to grow up, you know, the same way that I did, you know, in a loving and caring environment.
I feel like the Tri-Cities is like a really, I don't know really how to say it, but like understanding place to be. And so everyone around here is just kind of with it, and very thankful because there are some places where like it's bad and people probably don't feel as safe as we do here in Tri-Cities, and so I'm just grateful for that.
Living in a town they wouldn't have been allowed to just one generation ago. Now Kennewick residents and Kamiakin student athletes fighting with many others for a country that provides life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all in a country where racism is still alive.
I love the Kennewick community, and they're awesome people. I mean, just like in any community, you're gonna have those people that are gonna be racist and that are gonna say some stuff to you. Like it was freshman year when this happened to me. I mean, I get a note on my locker with a Scotch tape saying "You're a slave," and so it was kind of like, so I was like, wow, it was really like my first big experience with that in high school. And I was like, wow, it just shocked me. And so like I showed the notes to my coaches, and they hopped on it right away. They showed the principal, and they were looking for a person. They never found the person who did it, but they were looking, and they were doing everything they could to try and find this person. And just those kind of stuff it's just people being people. I mean, you're not born a racist. You're taught to be racist, and that's just what people teach you, and that's the household you grew up in.
It's not something that's just went away, and people want to think it's like gone and it's not a thing anymore, but it really is.
In education news, the Kennewick School Board has decided to delay in-person learning for middle and high schoolers all the way till February 2nd. Initially, they were supposed to come back November 2nd, but now they won't be back until the beginning of the second semester.
It started when they pushed school back to February 2nd, and nobody was happy. And I went out to the first protest. That was the parents one, and I heard a lot of good stuff. I mean, like the risk for students from this virus, and when the health officials are telling us it's okay to go back, all this is happening. The big question everybody was asking is like, why aren't we in school? And one of the things that was brought up that a parent said that the board member said is that they couldn't trust the students. And I took that into big, like, that hit me saying like you can't trust your own students to follow the rules. And so at every protest we emphasize wearing masks, so they know like we're ready to comply with all the rules. Whatever you say, like, we'll do. We just want to be in school.
Just gonna go ahead and get started. Today you guys are just finishing up your Photoshop Lightroom editing assignment. So make sure you guys get those turned in by tomorrow.
The learning things on my own without without a teacher by me to help me, it would be the most difficult thing for me. I feel like it's harder to learn by yourself. I mean, because the teacher's not hands-on with you. There's the ups and downs to it, honestly. I mean, you get to sleep in later and things like that. But I mean, learning wise, I mean, it's much harder to learn online than when you're in a classroom, like with other people around you and like with the help of it, like the teacher and stuff. Like, you have to you could either there's ask for help button on the Zoom, or you could email the teacher on your own, or you could stay after the Zoom and get help that way. But I mean, it's nothing like just being in class where you could just raise your hand and ask them right there.
It's the rest of the class time to go work, and I'll see you guys next week.
A lot of kids don't ask for help just because we're on the Zoom, and I feel like if people do have questions, I mean, nobody's really asking them, so it's difficult, honestly.
I've actually been able to adapt to it, and
Does that make sense?
it's been pretty good. It's hard at first, but then later on you really get to adapt to it, and you just kind of grow into it, you get used to it. The stuff I don't understand, talking to teachers, trying to make me understand it, there's some things in math, it gets difficult, but you actually really need to help, call teachers for help and stuff like that. Ask teachers, some people I know, they just I guess they're kind of nervous to ask for help or things like that.
I work actually, but like for example, this morning I got off at 6 a.m., come home, and my aunt and her children, they just recently moved here to the States, also from Egypt. They moved here last year, and so she's a widow, and she has 4 children that are all under age 18, and so I'll leave my work at 6 a.m. and go to her house, make sure that the kids are all up and, logged in for Zoom and stuff like that. Then I'll leave their house and come home and make sure the boys are, all in their proper, seating and ready for Zoom, because my parents are not here in the morning, basically I get home and we switch, so then I'm the one that's home during the day until, evening, and then my mom get home, and then I go to work, so it's kind of it's hard, but it's doable, but it's also sad, just it sucks because they want to be in school so bad, but they can't, and it's the whole online schooling thing is so hard for people at a disadvantage. We have an 8-year-old little brother, and my parents work during the day, and some days, depending on my schedule, I work during the day, so it's hard to make sure that they have to do their Zoom classes, which usually they all start school around the same time, get done at the same time, so it's kind of hard for them to be oh, I need to go make sure that my little brother can get on and do his classwork. So that's been the most difficult thing so far, I would say, with school starting and family life, but we've kind of gotten the hang of it now, so we're doing it. It's stressful, but
students have told me they normally have 4.0s, 3.5s, and they're struggling to keep a 3.0. They're struggling to even get it above a 3.0. And at that point, when you're normally really good at stuff like that, and all of a sudden you're failing classes that you've never failed before, that's really easy to give up. And I know a lot of students have told me I'm just gonna give up on school because it's just not even worth it. No matter what I do, no matter what I try, I can't get my grade up. my parents are yelling at me, and I'm about to lose my mind in here. And there's been a lot of evidence of kids contemplating suicide, and meds have doctors have been putting kids on more meds for anxiety and ADHD and depression and all that. And I mean, like, the numbers are going up for a reason. It's because we're forced to be in front of the screens all day, and it's not helping us learn anything. Students that are hands-on learners, they're not getting any material help. And like it's either like we need to go back in school or something needs to change with the Zoom calls.
Yeah, we moved here from Cairo, Egypt in May of 2003. Tuna was 6 months, I was 5 years old, and Josephine was like 3.5, maybe. Yeah, she's 3.5. And so we moved from Egypt, but we're originally from Sudan, from Khartoum. And so we migrated like when all the like war stuff was happening in Sudan, like in the 90s. So we moved to Egypt, you know, because it was safer for us at the time, and we had family there already. And my dad was working, you know, like he would work from like in Egypt and travel to Dubai, like on the ships and stuff like that, because he worked on ships. And so yeah, so we stayed in Egypt for about 2.5 years, and then we went through the whole like immigration process, and that took a few years, and so then we finally got that done, and so then we moved here, and we've been in Kennewick ever since then.
This one's a clean handoff, Altair. Looking for a space to run, busts out of a tackle, now he's gone down the sideline, and it's a foot race. Tuna inside the 30. Play after big play. We'll see what they have here. Handed off to Tuna, going for 3, and he's into the end zone.
Football means a ton to my family. I mean, every Sunday, my parents are watching the Seahawks.
My parents are huge football fans, you know.
Touchdown, Kamayakin. Tuna, Altair.
Ever since the boys started, like, you know, that's the thing, my cousins played football, you know, and so we would, like, go to their games, and then once Tuna was old enough to play, my parents signed him up and got him out there and, like, never missed a game. My dad would, like, you know, get out of work, and my mom would leave work with their work clothes on just to come to their games, you know, because they're like, I can't miss this.
Weird too, like everything's like really quiet around here, like, cause like my family like is really big on sports too. So yeah, it's been really quiet, and like it's been very awkward and weird.
That like, you know, all this is figured out soon, or like taken care of, because it sucks so bad not like being able to watch sports right now, and it's like it's dull. It's like we're going into fall season, and typically fall is football, you know, and, you know, just so much fun to it. And it's like you're traveling, and, you know, like all the, you know, you get to like, you know, because like fall and winter, you're like, you know, bonding with everybody, and it's time that you come together. And for football, you definitely do come together in the fall, you know, because you're all there, you know, cheering on your kids and, you know, brothers, siblings in the freezing cold. And like with all this COVID stuff, it sucks that like we can't experience that right now, but hopefully, you know, like I said, it's figured out and we get to go back to that.
Yeah, I'm a running back and he's a cornerback. Like, this would have been our only year together, honestly, unless we go to the same college somewhere together. And my parents won't be able to, like, my parents and my family also here in the Tri-Cities won't be able to, like, watch us play on the Friday night, so kind of bummed out about that.
I've been hoping to play with them my whole life, and this year just kind of got turned down, so yeah, it's been kind of tough.
Like, I'm the oldest of all 5 of my siblings, and so, like, I had to take on that responsibility super early, you know, like, and I remember Tuna when they were playing for Columbia Basin Youth Football at the time, and, like, all the team moms would call me a part-time mom, because, like, you know, like, I would get out of school, the boys would get home, make sure that they're fed, dressed, ready for football practice, because my parents were working, you know, they didn't get off till 11 p.m., you know, depending on the day of the week, I guess. And so most of the time they weren't home like earlier than 7:30, and their practices were like at 5, you know, right after school. So I would be the one to, like, you know, pack everybody up, let's go, you know.
Yeah, she's She's really been a big impact on my life. Like, she's basically like my second parent, my second mom. She's always been there since I was a little young kid to me right now. She's always been there, been able to take me places, just takes me to tournaments and stuff like that all the time.
My parents were always working a ton, and so she was always the parent at home basically, and anything we need help with, or from the recruiting part to schoolwork, just anything, rides when we needed them. It's she would always help us with them.
I'm really proud of my parents and how they came from nothing. They really taught me how to be humble, thankful, and grateful for everything I get, and to work very hard for everything I get too. Because they came from literally nothing, and now they're here and they're working hard. It definitely pushes me every day to be better. It makes me a stronger person, honestly, because I know what my family back home is going through. I have family back in Khartoum, Sudan, and then I have family in Kenya, and I have family in the Nuba Mountains in Africa. They're going through a lot, especially the ones in Kenya, because they're in refugee camps, and so it's sometimes hard to get food, and my parents constantly have to send money just so they can get that, and they have to walk a pretty far amount to get to the food place, because in the refugee camps, it's not they don't have a lot of it, so it's pretty tough. Grateful for every day that I'm here, and it's nothing but a blessing to be here, honestly.
Another handoff, Tuna busting it up the left side, running over defenders, and they're saying he's gonna step out. But holy cow, did he deal out some punishment.
He was not going out of bounds.
Willingly.
Simply. No Franco Harris style there, that's for sure.
Holy cow.
I'm still in the process of finding somewhere I want to go. It's a big decision, and somewhere I'm going to go for the next 4 years, and I just got to make sure I make the right decision.
When he was a kid, all we ever heard was, this kid's gonna go D1. This kid's gonna, regardless of who it was, they could see him play for the first time and they're yep, he's definitely going D1. So once the offers started flooding in, it's all the hard work paid off. Proud to say that I spent my young years watching over them, making sure their futures are good, all that good stuff. So all these offers flowing in, that makes you feel so good.
It's been my dream since I was a little kid to go to college, play football and all that, so they're super happy for me.
He's kind of taught me how the recruiting process works, how you should be able to keep your grades, keep working hard, just keep everything in line, and just keep grinding, just keep pushing too. A big football family, as you see Tuna getting all these scholarships, it really meant a lot to us. And we all knew that we could actually do something around here.
Here could end the half. Mercado drops back, throws it, and it's Altier grabbing it off the turf, going for the corner. He's in, touchdown Braves!